Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rent the land of bursting air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Today we are very, very honored to have an absolutely amazing group of ladies and gentlemen coming to be at this very special event. It is my great honor to introduce to you the following people, distinguished guests, who have set aside time in their schedule to be here with you. If you're in line, just raise your hand. If you're sitting, please stand and hold your applause until I finish the list. Alice Butler-Short, State Director, Virginia Women for Trump. Carrie Allman, National Federation of Republican Women President. Ellen Now, Virginia Federation of Republican Women President. Gary Aldrich, author and founder of the Patrick Henry Center for Individual Liberty. Monica Morell, National Diversity Coalition for Trump and Korean Americans for Trump. John Vick, Regional Field Director from the Republican Party of Virginia. Linda Bartlett, immediate past president of the Virginia Federation of Republican Women. Faye Williamson, former president. Is Faye here? Thank you. Terry Hauser, political director of the National Federation of Republican Women. Liza Bradford, president of Hanover Republican Women. Bonnie Burkhart, president, Clifton Republican Women. Tara Carroll, president, Huguenot Republican Women. Barbara Kyle, president, Founding Fathers Republican Women. Annie Farmer, president, Madison Republican Women. Susan Lascalette, president, Goochland Republican Women. Ann Heidick, Spotsylvania Republican Women president. Joe Watts, President Barbara Bush Republican Women. Ann Reeves, wife of State Senator Bryce Reeves. Susan Youngblood, President Hampton Roads Republican Women. Marge Ailes, President Susan Allen Republican Women. Marie Quinn, Volunteer Extraordinaire of the Year, National Federation of Republican Women. Erin Grant, School Board Member of Spotsylvania County. Sam Azzarelli, State Senator Reeves Communications Director. Cassie Horn, State Senator Reeves Legislative Director. Did I overlook anyone today who should have been on this list? In my mind, ladies, you are all superstars. It gives me great honor, ladies and gentlemen, to be able to introduce you to a very, very special lady. She's extraordinary, she's energized, she's smart, she's dedicated. She is a woman who will never allow you to be negative about Republican politics. She's been an inspiration to me, and I met this extraordinary woman only a few short months ago when Marge Ailes, president of the Republican Women with Susan Allen, invited me to one of the luncheons. And this extraordinary woman was a guest speaker. And I knew there was something very special. I was drawn to her commitment. I was drawn to her effervescent personality, and I must say, I find her Irish accent absolutely charming. This extraordinary lady who I am talking about, and you know who she is, right? Alice Butler-Short. She was born in County Tipperary, Ireland. She has lived on many continents. She has held numerous citizenships, but it was 30 years ago that she became a citizen of the United States of America. She is the proud mother of 3 handsome sons. One who is actively serving in our military, full colonel. He just graduated from the War College, DEA agent, a real American patriot. But there's something you may not know about Alice, because you would never know this about her, because she's always bright and full of life. She's a breast cancer survivor, ladies and gentlemen. But you know, God always has a plan. And this woman has stepped forward, and she has created Virginia Women for Trump. As a result of Alice's immense servant leadership in Virginia, she was the recipient of a very distinguished award. I want to read that award to you because it's an award that only confirms that Alice is the right woman at the right time during this election to guide all of us in getting Trump into the White House. She was awarded the high honor of the Daughters of the American Revolution Distinguished Citizens Medal in June of this year. And I quote, "The Daughters of the American Revolution Distinguished Citizens Medal Award was established to recognize worthy citizens for extraordinary service in the defense, promotion, and preservation of our American heritage of freedom. The medal is presented to an individual who fulfills the qualities of honor, courage, leadership, and patriotism. The DAR has purposely set the bar high for this particular award, and Alice Butler-Short is the epitome of the ideal award recipient. Though she was born in Ireland, when she became a citizen, she quickly assimilated herself to this great nation, and along with her husband, retired Colonel Albert Short, United States military, she spent many years while he was on active duty supporting the many families on foreign shores while their loved ones were protecting our great nation. She has lived in Somalia, Singapore, and many other places, Canada, England, the list just goes on. She's a worldly traveler. She has worked tirelessly to keep the unit morale high when her husband served on active duty. She also worked with the United States Agency for International Development, which carries out U.S. foreign policy by promoting broad-scale human progress. At the same time, it expands stable, free societies and fosters goodwill abroad. After returning to the United States, Alice and her husband settled in Fairfax County, where she has continued her lifelong dedication to service. She served with the Clifton Republican Women as a former president. She spent 2 years at the beginning of the Iraq War going to Walter Reed Hospital every day, supporting our wounded soldiers and families. She's also an Arlington lady. She will be there when a man or woman is laid to rest, so that that individual will have someone by his or her graveside. She serves as a board member and past president, and in this capacity, she also raised thousands of dollars for the TAPS program, which is a tragedy assistance program for survivors, which offers compassionate care to all those grieving the death of a loved one who has served in our armed forces. She has raised thousands of dollars for the Marine Special Operations Command. She serves as a chapter leader for Act for America, the nation's largest nonprofit national security grassroots advocacy organization. Few citizens can match Alice Butler-Short's dedicated efforts in support of her fellow Americans. She is a true patriot, ladies and gentlemen, who came to this country as an adult and immediately grasped the values and the virtues of freedom and selfless sacrifice that has made our country so great. She is an extremely worthy recipient of the DAR Distinguished Citizen Medal. And at this time, please welcome me with her in Alice Butler-Short. Please come forward, dear lady.
Okay, and I am the only person to have the distinct honor of falling down the arena steps head over heels for Donald Trump. So I wear it with a badge of honor. And thank you for all your prayers. Before I start, there's a young lady here that I would like to bring up front. So Nora, would you come up here? Nora, she gave her very first vote. The very first time she voted was in the primary. And guess who she voted for? So we want to make Nora a Trump girl. And I've known Nora for many years, and she's always admired my shoes and my boots. And I emailed her mom recently and said, does she still wear a size 6? And she said, yes. So, people said to me after the accident, you got to get rid of those boots. And I said, from my cold, dead body. So Nora is going to carry on the tradition, right?
Yeah.
So learn to walk in them, practice a lot. There you go.
Thank you so much.
All right, I think I'd better get on my working hat. It's more comfortable. You know, it's so wonderful for me to see all you ladies here today. It's really, for months and months, I have been saying that the media hype about women not liking Trump is a media myth. And also the bigger myth is that we are uninformed and uneducated. So we're showing them here today. So why did I start Virginia Women for Trump? I started it because I know the power of women. And when it comes to the grassroots, women, I think, are a lot more powerful than men. We're not shy, most of us. We're more passionate. We don't mind expressing it. We will, just this morning, as some of my friends saw when the Federal Express man knocked on the door, I said, are you voting for Trump? And he was walking away and he came back and he said, I was voting for Hillary, but no, I'm voting for Trump. And then, where is Olga? Olga, can you stand up? Where's Olga? No, the other Olga. The other Olga. Okay, I went to IHOP last week with Laura and Bob, and Olga was our server, and I said, who are you voting for? And she said, well, they all have this. I said, okay, give me 5 minutes, love. And by the way, we have this event on Wednesday, and you're coming. So we won her over. So that's how you do it, one vote at a time. And we know that millions of Trump supporters feel the way we do about Donald J. Trump. We don't care if the guy swears, or how many times he's been married, or who he voted for, or what his income tax returns are, or what they show. We want the problems fixed. They say he's an egomaniac, but we don't care. We know he's not a racist. And we know he's not bad to women, or all the other things the liberal media is trying to label him with. We know he's raised a good family, and that says a lot about him. And I always like to refer to the last page of his very famous book that he wrote The Art of the Deal. After he told us about all of the deals and how much money he'd made, he said, this is 27 years ago. He said, now my challenge is to figure out what to do with the rest of my life in terms of giving back to others. He said, if you're rich, you should be generous, but it's easy, and it's seldom done out of true altruism. And he said, for me, it's all in the doing. I thought that was really, that really spoke of his character. And then he said, I really admire people who put themselves directly on the line. What has he done for us? He has put himself directly on the line, and that's what we need to do for him. Our country is in a mess. Illegals are everywhere, and Islamic terrorists are openly trying to hurt this country and make the civilized world adjust to them. We want it all fixed. We don't care that Trump is sometimes crude. We don't care that he fights with Megyn Kelly and Rosie O'Donnell and so many of the elected establishment. We don't care about the Republicans who shamefully refuse to endorse him for their own selfish reasons. We don't care that he tried some businesses that didn't work out. The country is weak, bankrupt, our enemies are making fun of us, we're being invaded by illegals, we're becoming a nation of victims where every minority is a special group with special rights to a point where we don't even recognize our country. And we just want it fixed. And Trump is the only guy who seems to understand what the people want. Democrats speak the language of democracy, but impose more regulations and laws that take away our freedom. We're sick of politicians, sick of the Democratic Party that continues to take this country to a new low level every single day. We're angry about the Iran deal, the budget, treatment of Israel, military weakness, lobbyists, special interests, overpaid politicians with their self-serving bills and backroom deals, trade deals, loss of jobs, manipulated economic numbers, businesses fleeing overseas, and even the phony pay-to-play Clinton Foundation. So no wonder Trump said he wants to build a wall. And going slightly to a different arena, I accidentally found in my Bible one day, when all of this kerfuffle was going on about the wall, and it's in Ezekiel 22:30. And I sought for a man among them who should build up the wall and stand in the breach before me for the land, that it should not be destroyed. Isn't that amazing? Americans are no longer going to be fooled, and the movement, our movement, is out to change the direction we're taking. Trump may not be a saint, but he doesn't have lobbyist money building him. He doesn't have political correctness restraining him, and he says he'll fix it. And if you go back to the Bible and you go to Isaiah 45, you will find that God chose Cyrus, who was not a saint, who actually didn't even believe in him, and he anointed him to do the work. So I personally feel that in some ways Trump is anointed to bring us back to the greatness that we once knew. We believe him because he would never want to be proven wrong. That's his ego, it's a great thing. Or looked at and called a liar. He has succeeded in business by being smart, a good negotiator, and hiring experts and motivating them to do their best work. And most of all, he is a man who loves this country with a passion and has nothing to gain except the success of our country and a good future for our children and our grandchildren. Public service has become elected greed, and Trump is not in that category because he's not a politician and he doesn't need any of the benefits and opportunities that come with being elected president. Matter of fact, the White House would be something of a step down for him. We must elect him because the consequences of putting Hillary Clinton in office are frightening, really frightening. But there is a tidal wave happening, and it's going to overcome much of what's happened to this country. We are part of that tidal wave. We, Virginia Women for Trump, are part of this movement to make America first again, to make America safe again, and to make America great again. Thank you.
I know you've seen her. She spoke at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, Ohio. She's as beautiful here as she was there, and it gives me a great honor to introduce to you, and please join me in a wonderful warm welcome to Carrie Allman, National Federation of Republican Women.
Good afternoon, everyone. That's what I'm talking about. I'm from Missouri, and you have to show me, so. But it is an honor to be the national president and be with you here today. And I heard a rumor that some of the ladies in the room might not be members of the Virginia Federation of Republican Women. So I wanted to take an opportunity to let you all know a little bit about what we're doing, and also to encourage you to join with us. I don't know if you noticed when you came inside, but there's a very special guest of honor parked outside. It is the National Federation of Republican Women's red, white, and blue bus named Rosie. And she is anxiously awaiting your autograph after this event. I know you need to go buy some books, so don't slight Mr. Aldrich, but we'd love to have you come outside and meet Rosie if you haven't had the opportunity. And I want to tell you a little bit about how wonderfully Rosie is representing Republican women and representing the National Federation of Republican Women across the country. In 2014, the National Federation of Republican Women really focused in on the Senate races. We focused in on 14 races in 14. And at the end of that cycle, we, as all of you who are members know, that you keep track of your campaign volunteer hours and you turn those in and you get an award for them. Good, I see some shaking of the heads, very good. If you haven't started, it's not too late to keep track of your campaign volunteer hours. But we tracked and we gave awards for over 4.2 million campaign volunteer hours. Now, in my real job, I'm a banker, and so I like to keep math simple. So at $10 an hour, that's over $42 million that the National Federation of Republican Women, 65,000 members across the United States, gave to get Republicans elected from the White House to the courthouse. And it's an honor to be involved with an organization that is capable of making that much happen. And so when I was elected in September to take office of the president in January, I always say, if you can't be good, be lucky. And so I was lucky because I was going to be president during a presidential election year. And so I knew this was the time that we had to do something amazing. And we had to have the tenacity of a tiger in order to make certain that we kept the Senate that we worked so hard to get. We kept the Congress, and we took the White House back. And so I found out that there were 23 million unregistered females out there. And I was shocked. I said, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But I know just the organization that can get it done, the National Federation of Republican Women. And so I talked with my board of directors, and I talked with my executive committee, and I said, let's put together a project that we have never done before. And let's go out and motivate all of our ladies across the United States to register women to vote, to focus their campaign volunteer hours on the voter registration piece. And so as the executive committee would tell you, even if I was standing here, they were like, it's your harebrained idea to get Rosie rolling on the road. And so since Mother's Day, we have been rolling with Rosie. We have traveled over 25 states, over 15,000 miles. We have visited with over 300 clubs across the United States. And I am a shameless fundraiser. You don't put this kind of a project together without generous donations. But we're going to keep rolling until we either run out of money or we hit election day. Because I want you to know that the National Federation of Republican Women in March led the unity message by passing our unity resolution at the National Federation of Republican Women board meeting, with all 50 states voting in favor that we back the nominee in March. And we all know that the slogan of the National Federation of Republican Women is "There's a place for you at our table." And it's the women who unify the family when there's a problem. They all sit down at the table and no one gets dessert until everyone's singing out of the same book. So we wanted to be the lead to unify the party and take and remind everybody that it's the women who not only unify the family, but we're going to unify the party. So that's what we are talking about when we travel across the United States. We're encouraging our women not to give up and not to stop and not to be afraid to do one more knock on one more door or one more call for one more elected official or one more voter registration. And when they think they can't do it, just think of your national president sleeping in the top bunk of Rosie, eating bologna sandwiches because it's all we can afford, and you will be able to be motivated to get out there and do the one more thing that's necessary to bring Donald Trump across the finish line. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, so we're supposed to get motivated, so let's try it. All together, 3 times. Virginia Women for Trump. Virginia Women for Trump. Virginia Women for Trump. Virginia Women for Trump. Louder. One more time. Virginia Women for Trump. Okay. So now, one of the great things about moving around to try to take Mr. Trump to the White House is we meet such wonderful new friends. And I have a friend now who I think will probably be friends forever. When I had my accident, she wanted to drive up from Pennsylvania and take care of me. Her name is Monica Lee Morrill. Small type. But they match, right? Monica Lee Morrill was a delegate for Trump at the RNC from Pennsylvania's 12th Congressional District. Monica ran a delegate campaign in the most competitive race, one of 15 candidates in Pennsylvania, and received the top vote for delegate in District 12. She's the president and co-founder of the Republican Women of Somerset County Council. She writes for SFPPR News and Analysis and other news venues, and is the co-author with Billy Vaughan of the book entitled Betrayed, the shocking true story of Extortion 17 as told by a Navy SEAL's father. Monica's ancestors are from England, Scotland, Ireland, Germany, France, Norway, Sweden, and Korea. Monica is part of the National Diversity Coalition and Korean Americans for Trump. On her paternal side, Monica's late relative, Justin Morrill, was among the first Republican U.S. congressional group to be sworn into office in 1855. Morrill assisted Abraham Lincoln in getting elected in 1860 and was the longest-serving congressman in the 19th century. But what he is most known for is drafting the Morrill Act, which saved MIT, founded Penn State, Virginia Tech, Virginia State University, and many other land-grant colleges in the United States and territories. Monica has 2 bachelor degrees from a land-grant college, the University of California at Berkeley, she survived that, where she graduated with honors, and she has a Master's of Art in International Relations from the University of Paris, Sud. Monica began seriously studying and writing about the Morrill Act and other policies over 15 years ago. A Congressional House resolution was proposed February of this year to honor Justin Morrill with a Congressional Gold Medal. It has not yet been formally voted on in Congress. Monica has worked locally, nationally, and internationally in politics. Monica, like her relative, believes in serving as a voice of the people and honoring our Constitution. From now until November 8, she is focused on ensuring Donald Trump will be the next President of the United States. Monica, it's my pleasure.
Thank you, Alice, for that very kind introduction. I like to thank Alice Butler-Short and also Mrs. Morris for putting this together, and the Virginia Women for Trump. And I'm so impressed with all of the ladies here, the very few brave gentlemen. Please take my seat there. I don't want you turning your head so much. It's such an honor to be here today and to speak to you. How I introduced myself occasionally as a Republican running as a delegate is my name is Monica Morrill, and moral is pronounced as in good moral principles. And at least one of my names terrifies the Clintons. So I have to say I had a great name. I'm not going. That was even before the FBI debacle this year. So I just want to explain to you that I had to keep it short on the ballot, so I ran as Monica Morrill. But today what I'm going to talk to you about is my middle name, Lee. And it's not as in Southern Sarah Lee, Robert E. Lee, or any families affiliated with the Lee name there. It's the Lee name in Korea. And, I grew up in California. My grandmother was born south of Seoul in a city called Cheongju. And so she is from a family that had lived there for centuries. She grew up, she went to school, very strict education regime, but she grew up under Japanese occupation. So she learned to read, write, and speak in Japanese. In fact, to this day, she's still alive, living in California. She still prefers to read in Japanese because that's the language she was taught under Japanese occupation before World War II began, before the Koreans were liberated from the Japanese by the Americans. And of course, we know what happened after that. She loves Dwight Eisenhower. And I will say, to her credit, South Korea might not exist without an incredible Republican like Dwight Eisenhower. So I want to, there are many people we have to thank. I want to keep this brief, and if any of you have questions afterwards, I'm going to make myself available to answer any questions, but I want to share a very important story. I've never shared this story publicly from a stage before. And what's important to point out, and I want to quote Edmund Burke, the philosopher, great thinker. He said that the government is a partnership between the people who have died, the people who are living, and the people who are not yet born. And that quote could not be more poignant than it is today, because we are living under the incredible freedom that is, as I describe it, as our Constitution hangs by tattered threads, where we have to honor the freedom that was endowed to us by the people who have died. And I want to thank the lady, I would like to thank the lady who sang the national anthem. She did a wonderful job. It really moved me. Because when we think of the words in that song, and you look at the stars and the stripes, and you try to concentrate and reflect on the number of people who have done this before us, and it gives us hope that it can be done again. And so I want to share with you briefly about my grandmother and then what happened to my great uncle. And my grandmother was bequeathed to marry into a rather important family. Her father made an arranged marriage for her to marry the first son of the ambassador, the Korean ambassador to Japan. Now keep in mind, Korea wasn't just going to send anybody to Japan after the ending of Japanese occupation. They sent this family. This story I'm telling you is according to my grandmother. I'm a writer and I like to get interviews on both sides of the story. I don't know where the Korean ambassador is now. My grandmother was to marry his first son. She moved and lived with the family. She was engaged to the young man. She still has a picture at her bedside of this man. So I think she feels a little guilty that she dishonored and disobeyed her father's wishes. But she was a new and up-and-coming, cutting-edge lady who just wanted to come to America to get an education. She told me, I begged my father, I don't want to get married, I want to go to America and get an education. He arranged the marriage. She was living in Tokyo with his Korean family. And what happened was, she said they were mistreating her verbally and she wasn't comfortable there and she knew that her future was not going to be very hopeful. And she said, I was in the house with the ambassador's family and the cooks were cooking in the kitchen and the back door was open and I just walked out of the house. And I didn't look back. She said she's walking the streets thinking, oh my goodness, what did I just do? There's a war in Korea. My father just ordered me to marry into this family. I can't go back to Korea. What am I going to do? She's walking the streets thinking, what is she going to do? And she runs into a Korean dentist who happens to be friends with her father. And he says, what are you doing here? She explains to him what happened. He says, don't worry, I'll give you a job. You can work for me as my assistant in my dental office. And who were his clients? Who were his patients? U.S. active duty military. Okay, so my grandfather lays his eyes on her and says, the excuse, you speak Japanese, and you speak Korean, and you speak English. Can you give me a tour of Tokyo? So she thinks, oh, this young kid wants to, he's using an excuse to let me take him and show him around. So she said, I just did a very quick tour. And he said, oh, no, you can't go now. I have to buy you dinner because you did such a nice thing for me. I didn't know what these signs said. I can't read in Japanese, so I must take you to dinner. So she has told me that he proceeded to start flirting with her. And she said, how old are you? And he said, I'm old enough. I've never had the courage to ask her, old enough for what? So he was transferred up to northern Japan for training. He was deployed, and he did receive a Purple Heart. He was injured. He made it back. He wrote letters, and basically that's all he had time to do, write letters, and he sent his paycheck loyally, trusting my grandmother. Every paycheck he received, he gave to my grandmother. My grandmother saved it in the bank in Tokyo. He returned after a period of time, and they were married at the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo. So I received, as a student, I'm just so grateful to so many Asian Americans in America because of every individual story. And it's so important to realize that I have no animosity towards the Japanese. That's not affected me personally. I reached out to the Japanese American community and the Chinese American community, particularly the Taiwanese, who value their freedom tremendously. Many of them are Republicans, and received scholarships from these groups when I was a college student. And I'm so moved by the love that exists among the Asian American community. But today I'm going to tell you about one story. My great uncle. I returned to California after I started a family in 2008. I visited my great uncle. Now, you have to understand, when my grandmother came to America with my grandfather, she had left her family behind in South Korea, what is now South Korea. And my grandfather, as a Korean War veteran, sponsored her family, her siblings, her brother, her sister, their families to come over to America. And my grandfather was personally responsible for those immigrants when he sponsored them to come here. My great uncle, his name is Toku Lee, and when we were little, we used to call him Uncle Tofu. Because we couldn't pronounce it properly. But he was a very quiet man. He only spoke Korean. He was conversational at the dinner table. I finally had this urge to ask him, please tell me about the story that when you were kidnapped by the North Koreans. And so he was in a good mood that day. So in 2008, I learned about a story that has been forever emblazoned on my heart and that is forever a part of this amazing American cultural tapestry that we have, that I want to share with you today. He was 16 years old. His family home was about 100 miles south of Seoul. And he was 16 years old when there was an advertisement, word of mouth, in Seoul. And what's very important to Koreans is education. And the advertisement said, and I'm quoting this because this is exactly what he told me through my grandmother, who interpreted his story live while I was there. I wrote down that they were told, quote, "Come join us, we're having a meeting for young men." So he was in the audience, and thousands of young men between the ages of about 16 and 31 were in this room. And when the meeting was about to start, they became surrounded by North Korean men with weapons, guns, who said, "We are going to North Korea, start marching." Okay, so all of the young men marched from Seoul to Manchuria. Now my great uncle calls it Manchuria. Manchuria doesn't really exist anymore. But I mapped out, when one maps out the distance he traveled, it's approximately 300 to 400 miles of walking. Now he has since passed away. He passed away in 2010. I didn't get the time of year that they kidnapped him, so I'm not sure when they traveled. But they were forced to train for about 6 months to a year to fight as soldiers for North Korea, to go back to South Korea and kill people, among whom were their friends and family. Now, I was pretty stunned when I heard this story because I didn't realize it was so deceitful. And one of the reasons I wore red today is not simply because it's Republican red, but I want to show the communists that they cannot monopolize this color. Now I asked him, did they treat you well? He said, of course, we ate the same food, we were treated the same, but when it came to marching back, some Korean men tried, South Korean, now we're differentiating here, South Korean men who were forced to march back, some of them tried to escape. If they tried to escape, they were immediately shot and killed. So he said I had to be very discreet about escaping. I couldn't just make a run for it because they had surrounding them very strategically North Korean men with arms as well to kill them if they didn't obey. So they started marching back. They were forced to fight on the front line against South Korean soldiers. So they couldn't escape fighting because the North Korean soldiers were watching them with guns. So I just want to try and help put you in the mindset where he was. He was kidnapped and taken as a prisoner. Now they were hostages and forced terrorists upon their own homeland. So he didn't go into detail because this was a very difficult story for him to tell. And he said that he was eventually captured by American soldiers in South Korea, and he was detained as a prisoner of war. So now he's a prisoner of war in his own country. And his family did not know where he was. They didn't even know if he was still alive. So he said he had interpreters who came, and they said, look, we are going to try and get you reunited with your family, which they did. I asked him if the Americans treated him well. He said they were very professional. No one mistreated him. But I want to share with you that all of these complicated misunderstandings of what happens in a war-torn area is so complex and so agonizing that right now what we have is it's right at our doorstep. This very betrayal of a nation. And I would like to share with you very briefly, how does this circle back around to us today? Well, 50% of Asian Americans identify with a political party. However, there are 50% of eligible Asian Americans who are not even registered to vote. 26%, approximately 26% of those registered are Democrats, 17 to 18% are Republicans, and there's a 1% that's Green Party, Libertarian Party, no party affiliation. But really, we have a lot of work to do. And I've heard that in Northern Virginia, there is an incredible number of Asian Americans. I've met with some of them personally, but we need to get out on the front lines ourselves and reach out to these people to share with them the story of freedom that everyone shares in this country. And this is such a critical election, the most critical election in my lifetime. And I'm so honored to share this story with you. I want to bring it back to Trump, of course. We've got a growing group of people, Korean Americans for Trump, Asian Americans are joining the group. Trump said in June 2015, when he first announced his candidacy, we need to take the brand of the US and make it great again. And it is that brand of the US, which is why South Korea exists. And I explained to people that line, the DMZ, between North Korea and South Korea, is not a line between North Korea and South Korea. It is actually a line between the United States and China. It is a line between freedom and oppression. It is a line between capitalism and communism. And what we have to do now is educate some of these people. Some of them don't want to, and I'm not trying to be offensive, some in the Asian American community, they don't even watch English television. They're still watching, many Koreans are still watching Korean television, speaking in Korean. They don't understand the story of freedom of the country in which they're living. And so I want to share this with you because there are movements of really reaching out to people, and I'm so grateful to share this story with you. But our work is not yet done. We need to energize the base. We need to go door to door. We need to reach out to people via telephone, friends, families, little tea parties. If we can set up mini tea parties, let's beat the enemy at their own game. Let's sell tea parties and talk about politics and talk about the stories that brought everybody together in the greatest nation that has ever been created. So thank you again. And And God bless you all.
So now I get to introduce a very important man. And I don't have a piece of paper up here because I can say anything I like about Corey. So, Corey, let me tell you first. Corey, for those of you who don't know, he's the chairman at large of the Prince William County Board of Supervisors. He's an international trade lawyer. He's the father of 2 wonderful sons, and his beautiful Swedish wife, Maria, is sitting right there with him. Now, when Corey came out early for Trump, one of those brave people, right? And he has taken the backlash. And so I like to say he's a little Trumpish. And just recently he got in a little trouble for something he said. And did he say, "Oh dear, I'm sorry"? No, he doubled down. Good for you, Corey. So Corey and I have had a lot of fun traveling the state, speaking at Lincoln Reagan dinners, conventions, Republican women's clubs, and some people tell me, you shouldn't mention your age, but I have to because I like to say, well, I'm really no threat to Maria because I'm 73 years old. So it works out really fine. And we have lots of fun. So Corey, again, is a strong man just like Trump. And by the way, he is running for governor, and so we may need a new organization like Chicks for Corey or Corey's Chicks. I don't know. We'll figure it out, Corey. So it's my pleasure now to introduce the Virginia chairman for Trump, Corey Stewart.
Thank you, Alice. I still get nervous with you in those heels, I gotta tell you. It's really great to be here, and are you ready to take America back? Because, we are. We are going to do it. And one little bit of good news, Trump says this, Trump says that, the polls kind of go like that. But look, there's one number that we should all take a look at, and that is the support that Trump has. Now, you see this the polls from Pennsylvania, that the support that Trump has among blue-collar workers is steady and strong. So, Alice and I have had a great time traveling around the Commonwealth. A lot of fun. Myself, some other people from the campaign, and Alice, and we were having dinner one night. It was all guys except for Alice. And Alice goes first. She orders. She tells the waiter. She says, "Well, I'll have the steak." And he said, "Well, what about the vegetables?" And she said, "Oh, they'll have the steak too." But anyway, they're talking about love stories in Tokyo, by the way. 22 years, almost to the day. Maria and I, we didn't get married in Tokyo. We met in Tokyo, and we just celebrated our 22nd wedding anniversary. And I asked her, I said, what would you like for our anniversary? And she said, oh, one of these, was it Peloton bikes, these exercise bikes, these Peloton things. And I said, well, I didn't know you were interested in one of those. She said, oh, I'm not, it's for you. But that's a true story, by the way. That is true. Barack Obama in the White House just a couple of days ago said that there's never been anybody more qualified to be in the White House than Hillary Clinton. You know what I think he really was thinking? And even Barack Obama must know this. He really meant to say, there's never been anybody more qualified to be in prison. So, last December, I got a call from the Trump campaign in New York, and they had asked me, they said, well, Maria, would you like to meet Mr. Trump? He's got a question for you. And so we did. We met in Manassas, and he asked me to be his chairman, and I asked him, well, for goodness sakes, why me? And he said, well, you're the only one who had the guts to crack down on illegal immigration in 2007. So now think about this for a second. Now, I'm elected countywide in Prince William County, just like the chairman of Fairfax and Loudoun counties. We have countywide elected. We have 500,000 people, almost 500,000 people in Prince William County. It's 55% minority. 55%. And by the way, the fastest growing portion of the population is the Asian community in Prince William County. 55%. In 2007, a lot of Republican officials told me, other elected officials, when we started cracking down on illegal immigration, to drop it. They said, you're never going to be able to win in Northern Virginia cracking down on illegal immigration. Well, I got a little bit of Scottish blood too. And we never back down, ever, no matter what. It's very stubborn. I mean, to Maria's chagrin, I'm very stubborn, I have to admit. But anyway, we put it through. And you know that to date, we have handed over 8,000 criminal illegal aliens. Now, I know the Washington Post is here, so I'm not going to say what they said about me. But it had something, it wasn't a very nice word. But imagine this. Our crime rate, our violent crime rate, in a big county like Prince William County dropped by 48.7% in 2 years. And the Washington Post said it was a coincidence. Now, can you imagine that? Well, we know that it wasn't. So when Mr. Trump asked me that question, I said, I really need to think about this because we're going to have some issues in Northern Virginia. And, but I'm not kidding, I have 30 male cousins, 30 of them. They're all blue collar, except for me. I'm the attorney, by the way. The black sheep of the family. And they're all blue collar. Most of them belong to unions. I mean, they do everything. Drywall, they carpenters and plumbers and mechanics and auto body guys and all kinds of stuff like that. And we get around the campfire, and we used to get around my grandmother's, Thanksgiving around, and we argue about politics all the time. And they've mostly been Democrats throughout the year. Until Donald Trump. Until Donald Trump. And with one holdout, and I'm working on them, they're all voting for Donald Trump. Every single one of them. Now that is in northern Minnesota. Now I don't know how many of you know Minnesota, but I mean, holy smokes, it's the People's Republic of Minnesota. It was the only state that voted for Mondale in 1984. I mean, it was really embarrassing. I wouldn't even admit I was from Minnesota for a long time after that. But things are changing. Things are changing. Our party, if you think about it, let's just be honest. Over the last 20 to 30 years, it's become a little bit tired, a little bit staid. We kind of stayed on the same message, didn't change all that much. And frankly, we're always on the right side. The Republican Party is always on the right side. We were founded to abolish slavery. We were the party that did that. Well, we had grown a little bit tired until Mr. Trump, he's woken us up. And what has happened, not everybody is all that excited about the fact that we're getting a lot of blue-collar workers who are supporting our party and supporting our candidate for president, because it presents a threat to those who have run our party for the last 30 years. And we have taken our party back. Now, Democrats know this, but the Democrats, instead of nominating a reformer, instead of nominating somebody who's going to change the Democratic Party, nominating somebody who's going to make it more responsive, they nominated the worst possible candidate. Hillary Clinton will change nothing. And by the way, I was supposed to be honest, there's only one person on this planet where I would turn down being an MC for the Donald Trump rally in Abingdon this morning, or today, this afternoon. That's Alice. You're the only one. I was supposed to be emceeing that event for Mr. Trump today, but here's the thing. He's there. And he was there, he was in Roanoke 2 weeks ago, he was in Loudoun County, and let me tell you why he's down there. Because the Democratic Party has completely abandoned middle America. They don't care. They don't care. And they continue to lie. They continue to say that any Republican, frankly, any candidate for any office who wants to crack down on illegal immigration, they continue to say that that person is a racist and a bigot. That's not true. That's not true. We're not anti-immigrant. We're not anti-anything. What we are is pro-law enforcement. America faces a lot of problems. And we need somebody in office who's going to be very blunt. There's not a single person in all of world history, think about it, who's ever been able to address and solve a problem who did not have the courage to talk about it honestly. And over the last 40 years, America has lost something. We've lost the virtue of candor. Why? Because the left wing has belittled, embarrassed, ridiculed conservative speech. And when you stand up, what do they label us as? Bigots and racists, and they label our speech as hate speech. It's not. It's the honest to God truth, and the only way we're going to take our country back is to speak honestly about the issues. And I'll end on this. Now, after Donald Trump is elected on November 8th, historians are going to look back. Historians are going to look back. There was a watershed in American politics. Certainly a watershed in the Republican Party. There was a pre-Trump era and there's a post-Trump era. And there are going to be politicians after Mr. Trump is elected who are going to look at that as a model. And they're going to say, no more fear. We're not going to be intimidated by the press or the left wing. We are going to speak our mind because we love our country, and we're at least going to have the courage to be able to speak honestly and directly and take our country back. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, Corey Stewart. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is someone who I've had the pleasure of coming to know these last few months. And I want to tell you a little story of what I encountered in these last 2 weeks. So many women say to me, Laura, how do we win the hearts and minds of people who seem to be so indoctrinated by the news? I have a simple answer for that. Because I like to keep things simple and straightforward. Let me give you an example. 2 days ago, I went to visit my eye doctor. And one of the technicians, who I have known for a number of years, she said, "Oh, Miss Morris, it's so nice to see you again." And I said, "It's always great to see you." Girl, who are you going to vote for? Oh, well, that's something I'm not quite sure. I said, let me make this easy for you. Do you have children? Oh, yes, I have 2. What are their ages? 17 and 7. How does it make you feel when they lie to you? Oh, lying is not allowed in our family. In fact, whenever they do lie, they turn red in the face and they start to cry. I said that's exactly how it was and is in my family. I have 2 children. They're young adults, but to this day they'll tell you, you don't lie to mom and daddy, you don't lie to anybody else. So I said to her, it got you upset, didn't it? If somebody lies. Oh, it sure does. Well, how can you possibly vote for a pathological liar? What message are you sending to your children? She looked at me. She said, Miss Morris, no one's ever put it that way. Thank you for sharing that. At which I said, so who are you going to vote for? She says, I'm voting for Trump. You see, you don't need a PhD in political science to get Donald Trump in the White House. What you do need is to be bold, unapologetic, but gracious. There are people out in your community who are desperately looking for someone to assist them in understanding the political warfare that is going on. But I maintain, if you make it personal, as I did, you will be amazed in how receptive men and women will be. They get it. And here's the second one that came my way. Had lunch with a lovely lady, my good friend Michelle. She introduced me to a new friend. About 10 minutes into our little chit-chat, I said, so, girl, who are you going to vote for? Oh, well, I like Trump, but, well, I've just got this question for you. I says, go ahead. Well, I'm just so doggone worried that he's going to put his finger on the nuclear button. Don't laugh. I've heard that from a few women, of which I said, of the 2 candidates running for president who publicly announced years in advance not to go to war with Iraq because it will dismantle the Middle East. And she said, Trump. Of the 2 candidates who voted to go to war with Iraq that dismantled the Middle East, she said, Clinton. So based on this conversation that we're having, who is more likely to put her finger on the nuclear button? That ended. She looked at me, and I said, so who are you going to vote for? She said Trump. You see, ladies, here's my challenge to all of you today. When you go out into your community, whether you're shopping for groceries, you're at the medical appointment, you're with a friend, you're even at church, I promise you, this election is on everyone's mind. And don't just assume that they've made up their mind. You have an opportunity, ladies, because you are the movers and the shakers of the Republican Party in Virginia. challenge to all of you is talk to at least 1 to 2 people a week as you go out and do your errands. And don't be afraid to ask them, so who are you going to vote in this upcoming election? And last but not least, I want to thank all of you for coming today. I want to thank all of our guests, as well as the guests who are maybe meeting us for the very first time. If you want to get involved in Virginia Women for Trump, then please see me or Alice after today's event. There is a place for you at our table. Thank you, and here's Alice. God bless you all.
And please don't go, because we're going to wrap up with something very special. Firstly, I'd just like to thank you all for being here today. Virginia Women for Trump are at the forefront of the battle to make our country great again. I love John's ideas. We need to work with him. My idea was exactly his, and that is to have teams. So every single woman in this room can organize her own team, even if it's just 6 people. That way it's intimate, you have fun working together, and it spreads. So please do that. So now you're all anxious to get home, and I would just ask you to say once again, Virginia Women for Trump. Maybe take off your hat and wave it. Stand up everybody. Virginia Women for Trump. Virginia Women for Trump. Virginia Women for Trump. And stay standing and let us all sing the song that we all so dearly love, and that is God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Just before you go, Dino put on such a fabulous tea for us. Dino, where are you? Come up here, please, Dino. We all want to thank Dino. He really went to such great lengths to make this a wonderful occasion. This is very, very special because this is the man who made it possible for us to have this wonderful occasion here today, and he charged us very little. So we are so grateful. Dino is also a great Trump man, and happy. Are you an immigrant?
My family.
His family, but he's Greek, right?
Born here in America.
Well, I have something very special for Dino. We once bought an antique Greek map for a relative who's no longer with us, but you won't mind that. And I would now like to give it to Dino because I think he will really value it.
Oh, wow.
So thank you all very, very much. The next time we'll do bigger and better. Go out, form teams, okay? And bring 6 people with you next time.